We're Corvisa Services. We were founded in Milwaukee a little over 3 years ago by a small team of about 8 people. We're in the real estate residential appraisal business. So a year later, we kind of caught the attention of one of the largest appraisal management companies, I guess you call it, in America, and they acquired us. A little over a year later, then, we were repositioned underneath the parent company, which is Novation, to be kind of side by side with StreetLinks and Advent and Mango, to do all of their development, all of their marketing, all of their Salesforce administration, pretty much everything that we can share across all of the companies we do right up 2nd Street here in the Schlitz Park building there. So 2 of these companies, Advent and Mango, we kind of brought into our Salesforce Org at the same time, and they had kind of an interesting situation that I want to get into. Obligatory shots of the office, because we're very proud of our new office that we moved into about 6 months ago. We gutted the Bottle House A, half of it at least, and so now we've got some nice colors going on, these jumbotrons that we use for demo meetings and all kinds of stuff, a lot of collaborative spaces, and I also wanted to show that to you just as a carrot because we are hiring, so just throw that plug out there. So the problem that we wanted to solve, we had Mango moving and we had Advent Financial, both starting up teams of users to run these marketing initiatives simultaneously in different industries, and they're relying primarily on temporary staff who have no knowledge of the industry, no knowledge of the business that they're working for, and no knowledge of Salesforce, how to use it. So what they wanted to do was, for example, Mango Moving was calling a bunch of moving providers, people that will come and pack your stuff and move them on, load them onto a truck, move them, unload them, that kind of stuff. We wanted to call them and get them into our stable of providers that we can outsource for people that are looking to move across country. And we wanted to do this in a scripted manner. We didn't want the temporary staff having to try to figure out what to say next. We wanted to walk them through and guide them the whole way through from call open to hopefully them signing up to be one of our partners. And of course, like everything, there's minimal time for training because they wanted to start the initiative yesterday. So that's kind of where we were and where we were trying to search for a solution, because we did have a lot of objects that they were going to touch. We had to have them logging tasks. We had to have them updating certain fields over and over and over again, and we didn't want to rely on them remembering where to go do all of this. And of course, the reporting was crucial, so we had to get this automated for them. So as I was looking for a solution, we started looking at Flow, Visual Workflow, which is baked into Salesforce for us. You know, obviously, the first question you have to ask is why not use that? The first question I had to answer for my boss is, you know, improving the expenses. So why use something? Why find another tool when Salesforce already provides this for you? So we started working with Flow and trying to do what I wanted to do. And it's a very valuable tool. I don't want to bash Flow, and I don't want to sit up here and say that it's horrible, but for me, it was very difficult for me to achieve the functionality that I wanted in a very short amount of time. It's very time-consuming for me to learn how to. I'm not a developer by trade, so I had to declare variables. I had to build a workflow, Visual Force page. I had to link them all together. The interface itself wasn't as friendly as I hoped it would be. And because of that, I couldn't turn this over to a sales manager or the manager of these call center users and say, here you go, if you have any adjustments, just use this, because they would be horribly lost. And we don't want to take up all of our time just redoing their flows. So at about the same time, we went down to CloudForce in Chicago, and Cloud Extend hosted the after party, I guess you could call it. So I went there, and we met the team of the Flying Monkeys there. Sorry?
You'll learn soon what that's all about.
Oh, that's true. I guess we didn't break that out. Sorry if I that's on you. No problem. All right. So I talked to the Cloud Extend team, and lo and behold, they had a product that did exactly what I wanted to do in my org. So we did a demo the following week, got set up with a trial, tested it out in our sandbox, and then shortly thereafter we purchased it to use for both the Mango and the Advent teams because it was solving all of the problems that we had. So why did we go with Cloud Extend? And I'll show you a demo of how easy it is for us to use, but basically simplicity. There's no coding. We didn't have to write Visual Force pages. The one Visual Force page that we would have had to write because we wanted to use a non-standard object they had the code for, they provided it in the help section. You just put it in there, you copy and paste, and then you change the object, and you're good to go. The time savings, when I had the flow that I wanted to build and I started writing it in flow, I got quickly overwhelmed after about a couple of hours of having maybe 2 screens done. And in about the same amount of time, I got my whole flow written in Cloud Extend. There's kind of a pretty crazy video on the Cloud Extend site that kind of shows you side by side a very basic flow, and the time lapse they had to do for the Salesforce flow is kind of a long time. But the interface itself is very friendly. It's drag and drop. It's point and click. You're not having to declare variables or declare unique names, as well as the name that you're giving the field and all this kind of stuff. So that was very nice for us. Because of that, it's easy for us to turn over to maybe a junior Salesforce admin or the sales managers, the stakeholders in what's going on. And the bottom line here is that it's a third-party application, so if something breaks, we want to know that we can go somewhere, or if we just have questions on what's going on. And the support team has been fantastic. I really can't say enough good things. I get 2 to 3 people jumping on the issue and making sure that it's resolved for us as quick as they can. So fantastic user support, always important when you're going with a third-party application. So let me just show you here what we did. So I'll kind of show you the interface, and then I will just walk you through an example from our life of what we were trying to do. So this is your interface. Compared to Flow, it's a lot more colorful. It's a lot more, 2.0, I guess you would call it. But obviously, that's not everything if it doesn't work. But this works famously for us. So we can make these decision points here where the user will have to click to answer yes or no. So we have them calling the company, and we provide them with the phone number, and did they answer the phone, yes or no? So then they start going up this tree, and we give them the script of what we want them to say along the way, and we ask them to, say, you make the decisions for themselves of what's happening on the call, but we can also make these automated decision steps where the data tells the flow how to go. So in this instance here, this is relying on a field, I believe it was called status, where if the status is equal to a certain value, it goes up this tree here, or this branch here, and if it's equal to another value, and so on and so on. So we're able to give them the different voicemail messages we want them to leave, just based on the status value that's already set for them. They don't have to decide which one they're on. We already know, so flow up appropriately. The nicest part about this, though, is the updating of the fields. We can see here that this is going to update these fields for us appropriately. It's going to increment our calls, or it's going to change our call status value as they're moving along the flow. They don't have to remember to do it. It's a little more interesting here up along the top, I suppose, where we can also create contact records. So what we were doing here is we had a bunch of accounts which were moving companies, but we didn't have names for anyone at the moving company. We just had a company and a phone number. So we wanted them to find out who's the decision maker, put them into Salesforce, add them as a contact role, log your call with them. It's a lot of steps, right? So it's a lot of screens, a lot of clicks. It's going to take them a lot of time. But with Flow, it all just happens in one guide on one screen. So if they're speaking with the move coordinator, they gather that contact information here. We ask them to put in their first and last name and title and so on. So all of this at the end is going to create my contact, create a contact role for that, and then any other data points that I collect along the way will be added for me. And then I can create and log my task. I can create a follow-up task, set that for a date and time in the future, and go from there. So the interface itself, like I said, is very point and click. It's very friendly. If I wanted to insert a step, I simply just click the insert button, and I can add in a decision point here. Did they want further info? Yes or no? And I can say OK, and it builds the tree for me. I don't have to decide what's going where. If this isn't in the right place, I can move it and copy and paste, and I can paste the whole branch, or I can copy just a single instance. So let me just jump into one of the examples here. So we gave our reps a list of accounts that they're supposed to work, that they're supposed to get to be our partners. So they have a list of accounts that they go to just through a list view or through a report, and everything lives right on the detail page here, in a Visualforce page that's provided for you already. As I said, we didn't have to code it. And then they just click on the name of the guide that we want them to run, in this case the Indie Company Recruitment Guide. and this is just going to start us from the front to the back and say, please call the company. Did anyone answer the phone? And I can say yes, and I can continue on through here. The images are a nice touch. It's very easy for us to add those in there. We can format the text different ways, and so on from there. So as you can see, this kind of walks through. It's got a nice history along the side here, so if I screwed up or I wanted to go back, I can quickly go back to a different card on here. I can restart the whole guide. Another really nice thing about this is that it's completely stateful, so that if I close this accidentally and I come back, I didn't lose any of my work. It's all still sitting here for me, ready for me to pick up where I left off, or for another rep to come pick up where I left off. So that's really my presentation of how we use this and why we use this. The applications for us are kind of limitless because Mango Moving is a moving company, so it was good for this, but we also use it for Admin Financial, which deals with tax time stuff, so we're dealing with a whole different set of variables and companies. So this is where we are with Cloud Extend, and it's really helped our teams get up from, data hire for their week of training with the company, and then they're on the phones right away. We don't have to teach them how to use Salesforce. We just teach them, here's where you find the companies you're working on. You click into one, and then you click go, and then it walks you right through and does all the updating. That's me.
Erik, can you speak to how you learned and started getting used to doing these processes and kind of that onboarding to Cloud Extend, what that process was like?
Sure. The biggest part about it, I guess, is getting a solid process that you want them to follow. Is writing the scripts. It's writing it from how do we want them to open a call? How do we want them to proceed from there? So obviously, if you don't have a solid foundation with that, it's kind of not going to help you, and nor will any tool. So making sure that you have all of those questions answered up front, obviously, is ideal. So we did have a couple of training calls. I believe we had an hour-long training call when we first started the trial on here, and the Cloud Extend team was very helpful in getting you comfortable with the whole interface, showing you how to deploy the guides and update them and redeploy and take some down if you don't want them to be up any further or any longer. So the onboarding period, I would say, was very brief. We really just had the training, and then we just kind of started hammering it and using it, and it just felt very comfortable to start from, I guess. I didn't feel like I was lost at any time, which is, I think, a good compliment, because oftentimes software is overly complex. So is that kind of what you're going for, I think? Okay. Any other questions there?
Like you said, it's stateful, so you're in the middle of this call and you need to break and do something else. And let's say you do that maybe 3 times, so you've got 3 open calls at various points along the way. That's easily handled?
Sure. So the question from the audience, I remember, aren't you proud?
I am.
The question, I didn't repeat your question. The question from the audience was, if I have 3 of these guys started and I've backed out of each of them or closed the screen or something, will those remain in the state that they were in? And yes, I found that they do. I haven't come across an instance where it hasn't happened yet. So yes,
each guide instance is correlated to the object.
Correct. Yeah, the specific record.
Right. I got 2 questions for you. The first one is, your tool has a really nice example where you're going into multiple branches. Are you able to consolidate back, so give a series of actions that are always the same regards to the tree?
Sure. They have a concept in here that they call jump steps. So if I'm working on, I'm trying to find one here. Yeah. So if I've kind of got a split here, but then I want to jump back down. So I can go up and collect the phone number for this person, or I can go this route. But at the end, they're all just kind of joining back together. So yeah, this jump step here will drop you right to the step that you wanted to pick back up on. Yep.
And then my follow-up question with that is, if you have an existing flow that your team is actively using and you need to make updates, are you able to do that without interrupting the work? So like, if you know you're going to be taking an hour or something like that to be making changes because you're multitasking, are you able to make those changes and then say, now this is ready?
Yeah, there's a very nice, the changes that you make don't take effect, even if you save them, they don't take effect until you publish. So I'm able to work on all these guys all day long while people are in there, are actually actively using them, and until they're done with their day, then we'll publish at night. So there's that concept.
Do you know what happens if you publish and someone's in the middle of an active flow? Or
Depends on how severe, I guess, your updates are. Typically, if we do something like that and we forget to tell them, they just get a momentary error that just says, I forget what the error code is, but it's quickly resolved. If they were to just restart the guide, they can pick back up and go from there. But generally, obviously, we want to deploy it afterward.
Manage any of the kind of the use of these process flows or dashboards or anything like that? Like, how do you know that you're on the right track, like that's the right process and you're seeing the right output of the process and the system?
Sure.
So kind of the system is one thing, but you have to have the right process. So how are you using Salesforce to even see the progress you're making?
How do we use Salesforce to see kind of the results of the flow and see if they're getting the right?
Yeah.
So Cloud Extend has some nice built-in reporting for us. We've got, what we can do here on each of the end steps is we can set kind of an outcome. I think it's called an outcome, but yeah, so we can set for each guide, we can set our outcomes. So for this one, for example, application was completed, we contacted them, but they didn't complete, so on, so on. So we have multiple values that could potentially be the result of this call. And from the Cloud Extend home here, the guide designer, I can see an outcome chart of those. I think it kind of gives me a nice pie chart and shows me, you know, how many times they've hit this certain method. And this is my sandbox, so there probably aren't any outcomes. But there's baked-in reporting like that. Most of the reporting that we do is off of the fields that we've updated anyway. So we're just relying on the standard reporting and dashboarding of Salesforce to show us the new account statuses or lead statuses or that kind of thing.